Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. It is mid-July. We are continuing our coverage of college football conference by conference. We're talking right now with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com, who's going to preview the ACC with us. Joe Duffy, how you doing?
Fantastic, Peter Loshak. It's been a red-hot baseball season, and we're going to have an even better football season.
All right, Joe. Well, the ACC will start with the Atlantic Division. Start with Florida State, right? Season win total right now 9.5 plus 100. Obviously, they have to deal with the departure of Jameis Winston, and now Dalvin Cook suspended indefinitely. I don't know, man. You know, Florida State, I mean, the rest of the ACC Atlantic is looking pretty chintzy, but Florida State, a lot of departures. You know, it's kind of a rebuilding year for them, but they're still going to be good. They're still going to be very good. The elite of the ACC, I don't know if they're going to be a good bet against the spread, though. It feels to me like the signs are kind of pointing down. Maybe not fully down, but 3/4 down. What do you think, Joe?
They were one of the best dichotomous straight up and ATS teams last year, where they were a great go against. We bet against them quite a few times as a big favorite, and they kept winning straight up and not covering. There's no question they're more vulnerable this year. Jameis Winston, at least from a straight up standpoint, people who might want to consider betting against them on the money line, where they will be the favorite in pretty much all their games this year. But you may want to consider betting them against the money line. Remember, Jameis, horrible as a person as he may be, he pulled out some games last year. Florida State had quite a few games they could have lost straight up. Without him, they lost Rashard Green, tight end Nick O'Leary among them. They're definitely minus some talent, and I think they could be a pretty good go against not even better straight up, because I do believe they will lose some games this year, but they have a strong front seven. I do think that because their offense isn't quite as good, that means they may wind up even picking up the pace a little bit to actually get more points, to manufacture points. So again, in a strange way where people think a superior offense automatically means more points, not necessarily. I think Florida State may pick up the pace, and because people look at how much they've lost off of offense, the totals are going to be a little bit lower. I think Florida State could be a surprise over team, because they could possibly pick up the pace, but that's one of the things I'm going to keep an eye on and make those game-to-game adjustments. But there's no question Florida State won't be quite as good, but I do think that maybe betting against them straight up a couple times this year could prove quite profitable.
All right, well, someone's going to have to cover these ACC games. Maybe it's going to be Clemson having a big season ATS. Obviously, the health of Deshaun Watson is paramount. When he was healthy last year, they were great. When he was down, they were not good. And the defense, arguably the best in the nation last season. There's only 2 returning starters on defense, but, you know, they recruit well on defense, and probably they're going to have a lot of talent filling in. Maybe not quite as great as last year, but should be a strength. You know, the returning starters on defense, I mean, the replacement starters on defense are a big question mark. Deshaun Watson's health is going to be a big question mark, but I think as of right now, hopes are high for Clemson. Their season win total is 9 minus 105. Do you expect Clemson to be profitable this year, Joe Duffy?
There's no question Clemson's offense was substantially better last year with Deshaun Watson. Much, much better with Cliff Stout's son. He was absolutely awful. So if Watson is 100% healthy, Clemson, just because of that, their offense is going to be much better. You did mention they've lost quite a few players on the defense side of the ball. They've had some really good recruiting classes there at Clemson, so I think the defense will have an upside. They might start out a little slowly. Maybe they'll be a little bit of an over team earlier in the year and then become an under team as they raise the total and their defense becomes better. But they lost most off of their 2 deep on defense. Their secondary, though, is pretty strong. What I think is something I will definitely look for is, because their secondary is strong, but their front seven is weak and their offense is pretty good, a lot of teams might try to control the ball against them and nickel and dime them. So if it looks, well, I'm really going to try to get a feel of what the game plan of the other teams would be, because if it looks like teams are going to throw a lot underneath and try to slowly move the ball down the field, maybe they will be an under team.
Interesting analysis, Joe Duffy. All right, well, the rest of the ACC Atlantic, the mid-range teams are Louisville and NC State, and the bottom teams are Boston College, Syracuse, and Wake Forest. As we sit here right now, which of these teams do you have in mind as being a team that might be one of these ACC teams a little bit better than advertised, might be a good bet at least to start the year? What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, as far as from a value standpoint, Wake Forest, they were an awful team last year. And it's not to say from a straight-up standpoint they're going to be substantially better, but they have that rare combination where they're both young but still fairly experienced. They had a lot of freshman play last year. Young teams tend to be much better at home. I believe their baptism by fire will help, and they're a team that really their only major weakness is at defensive back. So these guys, their defense spent so much time on the field last year. They got plenty of experience. I do think their defense will be much better. So Wake Forest could be one of those dichotomous spread teams where they may not have a spectacular straight-up record, but I do believe they're going to have a very good spread record.
All right, interesting. Expectations definitely very low for Wake Forest this year. Their win total is a 3.5 minus 115, so they'll be a big underdog most of the time. If they are getting a little bit disrespected, they could have some betting value there. And then what do you think about maybe NC State right now? They're middle of the pack. Their season win total is 7.5. The over's minus 105. They returned 14 starters. Quarterback who was excellent last year. They have some holes. They're thin at receiver. They have 7 starters back on defense. What do you think about NC State? Do you think they might be a team that might be a little bit better than advertised or not really?
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett played very well last year. He was a little bit erratic at times, but if he can continue to pick up on the momentum that he had in the second half of last year, they're very deep at running back where they have and they're very versatile too, where they have a little bit of a thunder and lightning kind of combination. All 5 starters are back at the defensive back. I also, they're probably going to blitz a little bit more this year than they did last year, because last year their defense got better when they got more aggressive and blitzed a lot more. They're going to pull off some upsets. I think that NC State's a very dangerous team.
All right, and then talking about 2 teams that have offensive lines that don't have starters coming back, right? Boston College replacing all 5 starters on the offensive line, and then Louisville losing 3 starters. Both these teams are looking like their offensive lines are going to be a big weakness. Both teams also looking like their defenses will be strong. We know that Boston College, has a very run-based offense, and even if they try to pass, their passing game is looking very weak to start the season. Do you think that we should lean towards unders with both Louisville and Boston College, or do you think these are going to be, we're going to see games where the totals are like in the low 40s, even upper 30s, and that the market will overcompensate?
Well, not only is Boston College losing all 5 offensive linemen, Darius Wade, he's unproven at quarterback. Of course, he's taking over for Tyler Murphy, who is pretty mediocre, but as you said, they're pretty good on defense. So Boston College, terrible offense, very good defense. 5 of their front 7 are back on defense. That's going to be the strength of their team. The odds makers are probably going to be ready. No question, Boston College should be extremely defensive oriented, and I think they're going to be very conservative on offense. The question is, there could be, as you said, that we could have totals at 39 and 40 and the lower 40s, but they will be a low-scoring team. But again, the odds makers are always one step ahead of us.
But do you think at least to start the year there won't be likely value betting on unders with Louisville and Boston College?
I think probably early in the year, Boston College, especially if they have a total that approaches the mid-40s, they could be a pretty good underplay. Louisville, remember, Bobby Petrino, another one of these guys he's easy to dislike, but the guy is a great offensive coach. He's got the ability to do some stuff even without great talent. We know he knows how to coach quarterbacks. You're correct. He doesn't have a lot of starters, but also they're minus 7 starters on defense, so they might wind up giving up a lot of points. And Petrino, he'll happily throw the ball a lot.
Okay, so maybe a lean towards unders with Boston College, and with Louisville, if the totals are way down there, expecting a repeat of last year, maybe even lean towards the overs.
Probably, because I do think that there's a good possibility they will open it up, especially because of their defense. They may have to open it up.
Awesome thoughts, Joe Duffy. Now let's move on to the Coastal Division.